episode number 176.
Hello, you're listening to the Career Changemaker podcast. Having the courage to leave a career that you have worked hard to build and try something else can be tough. So in each episode, we dive into key career change strategies so that you have a clear understanding of what is required to transition into a new role or a new industry without feeling like you have to start at the bottom or have to take a massive pay cut, because #ain't nobody got time for that. If you are ready for frank and honest discussions about how to become a career change maker, keep listening. I'm your host, lawyer turned career strategist and executive coach, Janine Esbrand. Hello. I want to dive into the topic of recognition and the importance of making sure that you are positioning yourself to get the recognition that you desire and that you deserve. And we're going to talk about 3 ways for you to get recognition for the amazing work you're probably already doing. I'm pretty certain that you're already doing in the role that you're in right now. And here's why I want to talk about this. There's been so many occasions recently where I've been working with clients, and one of the things that we have to do when we're positioning them for opportunities is look at what have you done so far? What is your track record? What do you have in your toolkit? What can we talk about to position you for these opportunities? And when I tell you the amount of times I have to say, pause, wait, rewind, say that again to my clients, it's unreal. Because what happens is they'll just make throwaway comments about what it is that they've done. So I was speaking to a client the other day, and she was talking about what she's been doing in her role and how she's helped with client retention on a big contract. And then when I was asking her, what do you mean by that? Tell me more. She was just sharing that because of the relationship that she had built with a client, she managed to get them to stay with the law firm versus going with another law firm. So I was like, okay, that's great. So tell me more about what that looked like. Like, what did that translate into in terms of revenue from that client? And she was just saying like, well, that client spent like $350K a year with the firm. And I was like, okay, well, where is that on your CV? Or where is that in any of the communication that you're having around this opportunity that you're pursuing? She's like, well, I haven't put it in. I just said client retention. I'm like, okay, see, this is what I'm talking about. There's a big difference between saying that I supported with client retention and saying that I helped to make sure that the firm didn't lose $350K. Quantifying things makes such a difference. But when you're in it and when you're doing things, it's so easy to just gloss over. It's so easy to be like, yeah, well, that's what I do, because that's what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. But what you must recognize is the value that you bring to a role is the thing that you get paid for, the value that you're bringing. So it's not just showing up, doing the job. Like, that's a given, right? If you're hired to do a role, you're going to show up and you're going to do the role and you're going to execute. But when you are able to articulate what value you have brought to the role, meaning how does that translate into making the company money, making the firm money, saving the firm money, improving efficiencies, helping to do things better, helping clients to improve in terms of them getting results quicker, how has your role contributed to that? And when you can speak to that, and you can confidently articulate that, that is what allows you to make sure that you are getting the promotion that you want, or make sure that when you're moving into a new role, you're commanding the type of salary that you want. It's not just that, a company is just going to pay you a bigger salary just because they like you. It's if they can see how you're going to help to improve their bottom line, yeah, they're going to pay you a bigger salary because you're helping them make more money. Right? And oftentimes we are doing this day in, day out in the roles that we're in, but we're not recognizing it ourselves. So if you're not recognizing it yourself, then how then can you articulate it to someone else? And you can see I'm quite passionate about this topic because there's so much value that people are bringing, but they're not recognizing it as a value. And so that's why I want to talk about this. Hey, I am interrupting this episode to let you know that applications are now open for the Career Changemaker program. If you are a lawyer and you know that where you are right now is not working for you and you want to figure out what the next best move is for you and how to strategically position yourself for a new opportunity without having to take a pay cut, without having to start at the bottom,
you need to be in this cohort, because the May cohort is really going to be dedicated to supporting lawyers. And the reason why I want to do that is it's 1 year since I left my legal career. It's 1 year since I fully went into what it is that I want to do. And it's been a brilliant journey. And I want to support as many professional women as I can, and particularly lawyers, in this May cohort of this program. So if that's you, as you're listening to this, if you know that you want to be making a move and you've been procrastinating around it, you haven't been sure how to move forward, or you've been trying to move but it's not working, then go and make your application. Head over to www.careerchangemakers.com/CCM program. That's www.careerchangemakers.com/CCM program. Submit your application. I will review it, and then you will be invited to go through a career change assessment that's going to help you to see where you need to be focusing your energies, and we will determine whether or not the program is a good fit for you. Okay, so go make your application.
How do you go about making sure that you are getting the recognition that you need? So there's three things that I want to touch on. But before I do that, the other thing I just also want to mention is slowing down to recognize what's happening. So when you're doing the job and you're doing it well and you're busy, it's really, really easy to be going and executing and doing what it is you need to be doing. But it is important also to reflect and take time to reflect. As high achievers, it's so easy to just be like, yeah, I did that, next, worked on that transaction, that one's done, next, worked for that client on that big deal, on that big case, next. But wait, pause. Can we just pause? As I'm speaking to you, I'm also speaking to myself, because it's so easy to have the goal, meet the goal, and then be on to the next thing. But what about the debrief? Let's look at, how did we get here? What went well? What skills did I bring to the table? What could have gone better? Like, making sure that you're taking time to pause to really reflect on what you produce is effective for yourself, so that you can see the growth that you're experiencing, but then it's also effective for those around you, so that they can recognize the contribution that you've made. Because how often are we just doing things and getting it done, but everyone else doesn't actually know that you're getting it done? It's like, oh, it got done. I didn't really talk about it, but it got done. Like, how often does that happen? So I want you to think about that. How much are you just going, getting the job done, ticking it off, and then moving on to the next thing? And how much are you taking time to actually reflect on what you've been able to do and impact that has had on the people around you? So first thing, in terms of 3 ways, right? We're talking about 3 ways that you can get recognition. First thing is for you to keep a record. Keep a record of achievement. And when I say this to people, they're like, a record of achievement? I'm like, yeah, keep a record of achievement. Why? Because it's really hard to recall things when you want to recall them. Like, I don't know if you've experienced this, but I know that I have experienced this when I've had conversations with my husband about things in the home, and I'm just like, oh, you always do this. And he's like, really? Like, I don't always do that. I'm like, yeah, you do. And he's like, okay, give me an example. And in that moment, I'm like, yeah, I can't think of an example right now, but you do. You always do this thing. And that's kind of sometimes what happens. Like, you can get to appraisal time, you can get to having those conversations about performance, and it's like, I know I've done a lot, and I know I've achieved a lot, and I know I've made impact this year, but I can't really remember exactly when. Like I know there's something there, but I can't remember it. Let's not get into that position. And one of the ways that we can prevent that is to make sure that you're keeping record of achievement. And when I say record, it's not just about, it doesn't necessarily have to be all of the big things. It can just be about what contribution are you making and what value. So when you're paying attention to the value that is coming from the action that you're taking, those things need to get noted down. So having it electronically, having it physically, having it somewhere where you are periodically taking stock on what you've been able to achieve and how that has then translated into results for your team, for your department, for your organization, that is going to be super, super helpful in helping you to make sure you get recognition. Because if you can record it, then you're able to talk about it. The second thing that you want to be doing is create opportunities to have conversations with the partner that you work with the director that you work with your manager. Create opportunities. And the reason why I'm saying create is because sometimes we can be waiting for them to tap you on the shoulder and say, do you want to have a performance review, or do you want to have an update? But you might need to create an opportunity because it's likely that their calendar is busy. It's likely that they're booked out, but you being in the driving seat of your career and really wanting to make sure that things that need to actually happen means you putting yourself out there and saying, hey, I'd really like to get on your calendar to have a conversation about how things are going, or just discuss what my objectives are or what they should be at this stage. I remember having a conversation once when I first started working as legal counsel. It's my first in-house legal counsel role. And I was speaking to the managing director and I was like, can we put some time in the diary? Like, I've been here 6 months and I haven't had a review. Can we put some time? He's like, you don't need a review. You're doing absolutely fine. I was like, no, I need a review. He was like, okay. And when we sat down to have the review, he was like, so what do you want to talk about? I'm like, well, I want to talk about my performance. And he thought it was hilarious that I was asking him to talk about my performance, when for him, he was like, you're doing fantastic. But I was like, yeah, but I need to be more specific than that, because I know that there's areas that I want to grow and I want to make sure that what I am perceiving matches what you're perceiving. So just being proactive in that does two things. It makes sure that you are having the conversations that you need to have, and it makes sure that you're visible. It makes sure that people don't forget about you because you're just there doing the work, working hard and getting the job done, that they've got other things to focus on, right? So make sure that you are carving out time and you are being proactive and creating time on the calendar so that you can have the conversations that need to happen in order for you to make sure that you're moving forward. So that's the second thing. And then the last thing is also seek feedback. Seek feedback. So in the first one, you're taking stock and you have a record of your achievement and you're considering how you've done things and whether or not they've gone well. But point number 3, seek feedback. You're looking for feedback from clients that you work with and feedback from colleagues that you're working with on transactions, on deals, on projects. What do they have to say? What do they have to say? Sometimes you can get feedback and you can be like, oh, wow, like I didn't realize that that's how I showed up, or I didn't realize that me doing that one thing or taking the initiative in that one area made such a difference. So having the feedback is like you creating receipts for yourself. If you ever need to reference, you know, I know that I have this skill set. I know that I'm good over here. I actually have evidence to support that, because when I was working on that transaction, this client said this. That is so helpful in conversations where you need to really advocate for yourself, or you really want to push forward for that pay rise, or you want to make sure that you are in the running for a big opportunity. Having things that you can refer back to that back up why what you're asking for is invaluable. So when you're thinking about recognition, what you do now is going to set you up for the future. These things that you put in place today are going to help you in 6 months' time, 3 months' time, 6 months' time, in a year's time. And so it isn't necessarily about doing things that you're going to see an immediate return on, but it's about getting into healthy habits when it comes to your career progression, so that you get into the mind frame of, I'm the CEO of my career. Like, I am the person leading this ship. And so I need to act as if I'm the one who's leading in my career. And then it also helps to build that muscle so that over time, when you're having conversations about these things, it isn't foreign. So often people are like, oh, I was just speaking to someone just now and she's like, oh, talking about myself. I'm not that comfortable with talking about myself. I'm comfortable with talking about other people. And it's like, we need to get confident. We need to get comfortable. We're talking about ourselves if we are wanting to make an impact through the work that we're doing. So it's not about being boastful and it's not about not being modest, but it is about just being truthful about the fact of the matter. And it's about being truthful about what it is you have been doing and the difference that you've been making, and talking about that. And as women of color, we find it hard. We find it hard to do that because socially we haven't been engineered to be the ones who are like tooting our own horns and saying, yes, I've done this. And just because we find it hard doesn't mean it's something that we just say, well, I can't do it. It's something that we address, and it's something that we pay attention to and that we seek to overcome. Because if you really want to get into operating in a role where you are excited about the work that you're doing and you're making the type of impact that you want to make, and I know you want to make impact because I hear from everybody, I want to make a difference, I want to help people, I want to make a difference in the world, I want my work to be fulfilling. If you want that, then you really have to be able to drive things forward in that regard. You really have to be able to take control of your career so you can navigate your way into a role that allows you to do that. But once you arrive there in the role that you want to be in, are you advocating for yourself in that role? Are you getting the recognition that is required in that role? So this is really a skill set that needs to be developed wherever you're starting from. If you feel like you haven't got that skill set, it needs to be developed because you're going to need to use it in your career going forward, regardless of where you are. So I encourage you to be thinking about this. Get the recognition that you desire and that you deserve. You want to be keeping a record of achievement. Remember, I don't know if everyone has these, but back in the day at school, I used to have this little burgundy folder that had where we put our certificates in there. And I always remember that, and it said record of achievement on the top. So we want a record of achievement. It doesn't have to be a burgundy folder, but it does need to be either a digital file or a paper file that you keep, where you keep track of the things that you are doing and the successes that you're having. Also creating opportunities for you to have connection and to have conversations with those who are your supervisors or those who are your managers, your directors, your partners, you taking the initiative to put time on the calendar for those conversations. And then lastly, seeking feedback. Seek feedback from the clients that you work with, the colleagues that you work with, about their experience working with you and how you've been able to make a difference. Seek feedback so that you have something to go to. And even on those days, right, there's going to be days where you're just like, what am I doing? Like, am I even good at this? Oh, imposter syndrome is coming up left, right, and center. Then you have somewhere to go. You go check out your feedback file, check out your record of achievement, read what other people have said about you, read what you said about yourself when you were on a high. And that can help move you out of that feeling of, oh, can I really do this? Right? So those are things I want to encourage you around. What I've just shared with you is one of the strategies that I share with my clients inside of my program, where I am helping them to really navigate making the best next move in their career and make a career pivot that moves them into an ideal role. So that's what I want to share with you today. Take care. Bye.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe to the show so that you don't miss any future episodes. Also, I would love to know what your biggest takeaway has been from today's episode. Come over and join us in our Career Changemakers community over on LinkedIn so that you can join the conversation there. Head over to lightboxcoaching.com/community and it will take you right to the group. I look forward to seeing you.